The PBR toolset introduced in 3D Coat 4.5 includes the ability to use HDR image maps as not only your background but your lighting source. In fact, going forward, it will be the new default. Now, if you prefer working with a standard gradient background as you did before, you can still do so, as we'll see here shortly, but it will no longer be the default. Okay? Let's now look at some of the tools that help facilitate the usage of these environment maps here in 3D Coat. The first thing we want to look at here is in the navigation bar in the upper right hand part of your user interface. Now, as you may remember, you've got this ambient light adjustment. It really doesn't affect anything when you're using environment maps, but the second one does. It allows you to adjust the intensity of that environment map. The third one, rather than rotating a direct light in the scene, it actually rotates your environment map. Okay, your object stays stationary, but you can rotate your environment. The fourth icon here simply increases or decreases the amount of blurriness in that environment map. As I click, hold, and drag, you'll see the numeric value all the way to the left here. And I'm going to leave it at 0. And as of this build, it doesn't update when you lit up from your mouse, although it should. But what you want to do is just click in the viewport and it will update. This has been reported to Andrew and it should be fixed in the very next build. So by the time you see this, it probably will have already been rectified. Okay. I can also drag it to the right. Again, just click inside the viewport and it's blurry. The other way of adjusting it is going through the camera menu here under background, and this section here involves your environment map. You can again blur it more, sharpen it more with hotkey combinations or just clicking here. So let's try sharpen more, and you'll notice our hotkey combination is shift bracket keys. So let's click sharpen environment map. Now we'll just use our hotkeys. So shift left is the same thing as dragging this icon to the left. It's going to reduce the blurriness. So shift left bracket. I'm going to hit shift left bracket one more time, and it's going to decrease it in increments. Okay. So we'll go the other direction. Shift right bracket. And there you have it. Okay. The next thing we want to look at is in the camera menu. We go back to background, and that is lock environment. Now before I do that, I want to sharpen this up a bit so we can actually see the environment map a little bit more clearly. So I'm going to hit the hotkey combination shift left bracket a few times. Okay. And now we want to go to background and uncheck lock environment. So as I rotate about my scene, you can see my environment map travels or rotates right along with the object itself. If you don't want that, if you want it to stay in place, make sure lock environment is checked. So now, as I rotate about my model, that environment is, as the name implies, locked. So, background. You can choose a different environment map here, but we're about to look at a new tool here that allows us to see a little preview. So, let's go back here. We can rotate environment counterclockwise, clockwise, and again you have the blur and sharpen controls here. But what I wanted to point out while I'm here in this menu is you can at any time switch back to a standard vertical gradient, whatever you have set in preferences. Okay, so if this is what you prefer, you can quickly change back if you need. And this time, if you do that, you'll notice when I come to this third icon and begin rotating, now I'm rotating a light in the scene. So I'm not using environment map lighting at this stage. So let's go back to background, and if I want to go back to environment map, I would click this, use environment map. The next thing we want to look at is the environment map palette. If I go directly to the left of the camera menu, you can see the new icon that brings it up. So you can bring in new HDR maps, and by default you should be able to find some in your 3D Coat install directory under panoramas, and you can add to that if you already have HDR maps on your hard drive. You can just copy them to this location, or you could just find them individually. It may take several seconds to load an individual map, but whenever you need to get back to it, it will quickly load up because that map is stored in memory now. And just as with the tool panel and many other panels or palettes, you can scroll through it. So if I have quite a few here, I can just click, hold, and drag and scroll. Okay. And let's choose another here. Now when I click on this, it's much like the option for blurring. 3D Coat is not going to update it until I click in the viewport, but that should change again with the next build. So click on that, click in the viewport. Again, background, lock environment. And one other thing I should mention is if you go to the render room, previously you could not render using environment maps. It would not use the lighting from those maps, but now it does. So whatever map you have loaded in the scene, 3D Coat will now use it as a lighting source. So you do not have to use lights here in the render menu if you don't want. And you have your exposure control if you want to modify that a little bit. Okay, so that's a quick look at the environment map options that we have available to us in 3D Coat 4.5. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.